Welcome to the Dacus Report, hosted by Pacific Justice Institute founder and president Brad Dacus. For 25 years, PJI has counseled, represented, and defended people whose religious freedoms, parental rights, or sanctity of life have been obstructed or violated, all free of charge. We leave no one behind and level the playing field for Americans as they are subjected to the tyranny of the powerful. Now, here's Brad Dacus.
Welcome to Brad Dacus Live. I'm Brad Dacus, president and founder of the Pacific Justice Institute. On today's show, we're going to talk about a lot of hot cases that's going down, as well as some policy issues. We're going to talk about a big victory that we achieved there in the state of Texas. And we're also going to talk about how the Department of Justice was weaponized specifically to attack the Pacific Justice Institute during the Biden administration or regime. So we're going to have a great conversation today, and to help me do that, we're very blessed to have with us attorney Kurt English. Kurt, thank you for being on the program.
Great to be here, Brad.
Yeah, always glad to have you. I know you have your own streaming program that you have ongoing.
California Free Radio, yes.
Yeah, California Free Radio. I appreciate that, and I understand I'm going to be on that in the near future. So
sounds good.
Yeah, good choice. Good choice. No, anyway, but I appreciate you. You're a friend, and you're someone who is not just legally savvy, but you're also savvy in terms of what's happening politically, legally, and even from a Christian biblical worldview. So I love having you on the program. You and I have a lot in common, and I appreciate that. Of course, we also both have an understanding of business and finance and the impact that decisions can play beyond just our traditional understandings of our constitutional rights. There's also oftentimes economic impacts as well. So I'm glad to have you on the program, and your breadth of understanding is very much appreciated. Let's start off by talking about the state of Texas. Now, Kurt, many times people think Texas is great, everything's great in Texas, but there are those trying to come in and impact the public schools in the state of Texas. And I was recently called in by one of the state members of the State Board of Education to testify with regards to attempts to bring in Islam into the public schools. Now, we have that in California. We have it's often very blatant indoctrination. Blue states have it. And the group CARE, which is actually a radical Muslim group, which is actually declared a
terrorist
organization by the state of Texas.
Well, and
others.
Florida, I believe. Didn't Ron DeSantis recently do that as well?
Yeah, I think they did as well. And they testified. And I'll tell you, Kurt, it was just hate. You could just hear the hate coming out of their mouth against Christians, against Jews. It's a very dangerous organization. And they were pushing to get their agenda, get their policy, their distortion of the truth of history into the public schools. Well, I flew in and I testified against it. And good news is I just got notice this morning that the Board of Education has ruled to keep out Islam out of our public schools in the state of Texas. It's a great victory for the parents throughout the state of Texas. And I would say, for the sake of argument, that's effectively what they did when they said, have you heard of Pacific Justice Institute? Familiar with it? That was an indirect way of saying, we don't want people with a Christian biblical worldview to be on this jury. That's very, very concerning. Our chief counsel, I haven't talked with him yet today. I'm going to talk to him later on today to look at what remedies might exist to, at the very least, prevent that from happening in the past, but also potentially what our remedies dealing with this past blatant injustice.
Well, to your point, one approach might be to get the Department of Justice to enter into a settlement agreeing that they will not ask such questions in the future.
That is definitely a possibility, and that's all I can say at this point.
I understand. I understand. It's a pending case. You can't talk about strategies of pending cases.
Yeah, it's definitely, yeah. So
let me bring up something else. You talked about the FACE Act. I'm not sure our audience knows what that is. It's about protecting, allegedly, a woman's right to walk into an abortion clinic without being harassed.
But also a church. without
Okay.
without people going into a church and harassing a church.
But if someone is praying silently outside an abortion clinic and not obstructing ingress and egress,
Coming and going, right?
yes. In one case, an old lady was thrown in jail by the Biden administration for doing just that. And that seems to me to be violating your right to redress your government for grievances, your free speech right, your religious right. You're 3 out of 4 on the First Amendment there. And the FACE Act is only a statute. A statute cannot override the Constitution. So I recall that lady was either pardoned or the DOJ conceded it was wrong and she's out of jail now.
Yeah, it was interesting. So they had come down with a guilty verdict against her, the court, and also against the pastor that we were representing in this case out of Michigan. And they were both peaceful, loving, wonderful people. But the judge, it was after the election happened, and the judge said, we've just had a national election. There's a good chance that the new Department of Justice leadership may have a different perspective on the use of law as it was utilized by this Department of Justice. So I'm going to hold off on any sentencing until after the next administration is sworn in to see if their Attorney General and Department of Justice wish me to continue with this case or to throw it out. And that's what happened. And then in addition, of course, the Trump administration issued pardons as well to protect those who had been wrongfully and maliciously and hatefully prosecuted by the Biden administration's Department of Justice. They, without question, he weaponized the Department of Justice against wonderful people of faith, loving people. They had to look to their left and right. Are they going to be arrested for exercising their constitutional rights?
But isn't the legal issue that the Constitution is superior to any statute that conflicts with constitutional rights?
That is true. That is true. Now,
so isn't it clear that if someone is not obstructing, not harassing, not intimidating, not bullying, but quietly to the side, not obstructing anybody going in and out, it's pretty clear to me that's a constitutionally protected activity, irrespective of what the FACE Act says. What do you think?
And I would say absolutely, definitely. This case, interestingly, though, involved people who were actually on the grounds of the abortion clinic. So they were technically trespassing. Normally, that is 1 day in the jail with community service being required. The Biden administration was using the FACE Act to come after them to get 11 years behind bars. That's more than what most criminals, robbers, thieves, bad guys get.
Doesn't that violate the Eighth Amendment prohibition about excessive punishment?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And I agree.
Those pesky constitutional rights, Brad.
Exactly. So we at Pacific Justice, we did a very strong in our defense of these individuals. I'm glad it was resolved the way it was, but if not, we would have been appealing to the Supreme Court. So that's where we go with that. We hear about a lot of death and destruction outside the United States and countries. I understand before the show you were telling me that more killing of Christians is taking place once again in Nigeria.
Yes, the Trump administration, as I recall, has been calling some of this out. And in Germany, there are 2 Christian broadcasters, as an example, that are being threatened with being prosecuted for blasphemy. Now, that's something that only exists in Islam, and Germany's not an Islamic country. And so why are Christians being persecuted in Nigeria and killed? Remember the Sudan problem with Christians being killed, not too distant past. In England, preachers are being thrown in jail because it might offend Muslims if they preach about Jesus, but it's okay for Muslim preachers to go out on the street. And then these 2 guys in Germany. So around the world, there are threats against Christians' religious liberty, not just in the United States. We need Pacific Justice Institute in all these other countries too, Brad.
Well, I would love that to happen. Right now, we're trying to hit all 50 states, and we still have a few states we need to set up offices in before we probably go to some of these other countries.
Well, I've got a question about Pacific Justice Institute. You talked earlier about a pastor call. Are there a number of free resources that are offered? For example, parents who might be getting a visit from Child Protective Services or others.
Yeah, we have a lot of free resources like Steps to Protect Your Children, 12 Steps to Protect Your Children from CPS or social workers. It's free on our website. Every family should have it. I'm glad you mentioned that. Also, for parents who have their kids in public schools for whatever reason, we have a very valuable updated opt out form, which is more powerful than it's ever been because of the Mahmoud versus Taylor case.
Opt out from what?
Opt out of LGBTQ propaganda, uh, Islamic propaganda, woke, CRT, racist, hate propaganda. These are all things that parents can protect their children from now, broader than ever before. And we have the updated opt out forms free, folks, right now on our website. You can get it. Just go to pji.org. I've said this before on the program, both of these resources, there's many other resources available as well. But these are probably my two favorite because they're so empowering and they're so broad in their assistance to so many people who have children in public schools or who have children just in general, where social workers can be a threat. Even if you're homeschooling, private schooling, you still need that Article 12 Steps to Protect Your Children or Child from CPS. So encourage you to do that. It's applicable to all 50 states. But going back, if we can, though, to the international.
Let me just interrupt you for a second. So if
Okay.
someone has a need, a religious freedom problem, a student's rights problem, a pro-life discrimination, whatever it might be, a pastor is being discriminated against in zoning in a city,
Yeah,
does Pacific Justice Institute charge for its legal services?
we do not charge, and I'm so glad you brought that up too. We do not charge at all for our services. We have over 130 cases right now in active litigation. More cases are coming in all the time. We have a very high success rate, especially the last 2.5 years has been our best success rate ever. Strong majority of our cases are wins for our clients, and we do it without charge. And it's so exciting to see the grace and the power that I see God doing in our courts today in the United
But
States.
also, if people or pastors are saying, well, I don't know if I want to be involved in litigation, what percentage of your matters get handled before litigation, either with a letter, a phone call, etc.?
Yeah, because people know who we are, school districts know who we are, businesses, the government, etc. We're able to get matters resolved more than 9 times out of 10 without filing a lawsuit.
So,
Which is
folks, contact Pacific Justice if there's a problem, and it's very likely you won't even have to go to court to get your problem resolved.
Yeah, very true. Very true. I appreciate that. Well, folks, when we return, we're going to talk about what we have been doing on the international scene indirectly for those that are being persecuted, as well as other matters affecting your freedoms and liberties when we return right after this.
At PJI, we exist to serve everyone in need of counsel, representation, and defense of their religious liberties, parental rights, and the sanctity of life. We don't take cases based on how high profile they are. We are workhorses, not show horses. Keep current on PJI's work on all the legal challenges we face on a daily basis by signing up for our Legal Insider email newsletter at pji.org. Now, back to the Dacus Report.
Welcome back. And folks, if you'd like to keep up with our cases or to have access to those resources that we talked about right before the break, all without charge, or you need assistance, feel free to go to our website, pji.org, pji.org. Also, you may be an attorney out there who are saying to yourselves, I'd love to do that kind of work. And, we're ready. We're hiring people right now. New York, Texas, other places, because we have cases and we have people needing help. And our goal is to make sure that no one's left on the side of the road. We're very unique that way. But because of that, we have to continually be expanding and hiring attorneys to meet those needs. If you're one of those attorneys, or perhaps you know of one of those attorneys who might be a good candidate for PJI, have them contact us, have them go to our website as well, pji.org. Have them click the Get Involved button, and it'll lead them to give the information needed so we can start that potential relationship. pji.org, pji.org. So please be on that. And if you're a prayer warrior, I really encourage you to get our email updates to Legal Insider so you can be praying for our cases as they're coming out. You know, right now we have 2 cases pending before the United States Supreme Court as we speak. I talked to one of our clients this morning, and I'm very encouraged about that.
Will they be decided in this term?
Probably not in this term,
Okay.
but we'll see. We'll see what happens. It could be. So we're really encouraged about that. Now,
Wait, I've got a Supreme
Sure.
Court question now that you brought that up.
Yeah.
There are rumors that Samuel Alito may retire to allow Trump to appoint his successor, unlike what Ruth Bader Ginsburg did.
Right. She was so convinced that Hillary Clinton was going to be elected president. She had nothing to fear. So she was going to just stay on. And even though she was fighting pancreatic cancer, and, then, she saw those election returns, and I'm sure she was just stunned and realized what a huge mistake she made, because she knew she was not going to be able to live 4 years past the Trump administration, and she didn't. So Judge Alito understands where he's at on the time frame. He's early 70s. Is he going to live to be in his 90s? Maybe not. And the key question is, when you're on the Supreme Court, is who is going to replace you? And is it going to be someone from a different philosophical perspective, or someone that agrees with your perspective of the Constitution, like Donald Trump does?
Well, but let's explore that for a moment. You litigate a lot of cases in the areas of religious freedom. Given the makeup of the Senate, you have Lisa Murkowski, who's anti-Trump. You have Tom Tillis, who says he won't confirm an attorney general who doesn't say January 6th was evil and the worst thing since the Civil War. So you have 2 of the 53 Republicans you can't count on as good votes. Are we going to get an Alito Thomas kind of replacement through the Senate even now?
Yeah, and I think we will.
Okay.
I think we have. Well, all we really need is 50 votes, because then the vice president votes.
Breaks the tie.
The tiebreaker. We've got the votes that will affirm people who are credible candidates, have a clear head on their shoulders. This president is going to be meticulous with regards to the replacement. He's not happy with some of the people he put on, because sometimes they've disappointed him.
Barrett.
Yeah, and Kavanaugh's disappointed him as well at times.
Gorsuch has been a little bit better vote, I think.
Yeah, but I remember at least in one case, he disappointed the president. So it's hard to get someone who's going to be a perfect, candidate, rule the right way, if you will, all the time from your perspective. But there's a number of great candidates out there, partly because of Trump's appointments during his first term to elevate them from federal district court, or from federal district court to circuit courts. So his own appointment process back from 2016 has put us in a position where we're going to have some great candidates that he personally has brought up the ranks, so to speak.
Well, let's talk about potential replacements from your perspective. What about appointing Ted Cruz and letting Abbott appoint Ken Paxson to the empty Senate seat? What about Mike Lee, who's not in a different church than we are, but a brilliant guy, and his dad, Rex Lee, was the Solicitor General in the Reagan administration and considered a very bright mind. Who do you think would be an ideal replacement from Brad's perspective?
Yeah, I think both of them are great candidates. Another factor we have to look at also is age. We don't want someone who's just going to be on the court for 10 years or 15 years. We want to have someone who's going to be on it maybe for 30 years, possibly.
How about Ron DeSantis?
And Ron DeSantis, that's another possibility. I think Ron DeSantis would be fantastic on the Supreme Court. He's very bright, very intelligent. He excelled in law school. So he would be an excellent candidate.
How about Brad Dacus?
I think he's the best. I really do. I wouldn't make it. I would not make it, because there's so many cases that we've taken on that the left can use to try to attack us, and so I would not be an easy candidate to get
Well,
through.
your problem is that you'd have to recuse yourself from more than a case or two.
Many cases, many cases. That would be another problem. I have to do a lot of recusals, and that's sort of self-defeating. But we're doing so much, getting so much accomplished where we are right now
Well,
that
but maybe
I
you
would.
can influence through your network who that pick might be.
That is definitely a possibility, and
Okay, good.
I will say that. So, there are great candidates, great potential people to be put on the Supreme Court. Earlier in the show, and I do want to be fair to our people listening that we cover it. What's going on in say in other countries? We talked about the tyranny in Europe, Nigeria. I do want to give some people some good news. One thing that we're doing at Pacific Justice Institute right now, folks, is we are defending those who get to the United States and to prevent them from being sent back to tyranny using religious asylum. Now, it's massively abused across the country. Hundreds of thousands coming across the border, lying, saying, "Oh, religious persecution." Well, really? No. South of the border, we're really not looking much in the way of religious persecution. There's a few exceptions. We had one out of El Salvador, a pastor, the cartel was trying to kill him for preaching against the cartel. That was the exception. But we've taken on though, Kurt.
Wow, I didn't know about that case.
Yeah, we defended that pastor from being sent back to being killed. Now, of course, El Salvador is a friendly country to the United States. They don't put up with anything
One
from
of
the
the best
cartel.
run countries in Central America.
Yeah, they
It
don't.
shows you how you can have a turnaround with at the ballot box.
No, exactly, and that's what El Salvador went from being one of the most dangerous places, maybe more dangerous than Haiti in this hemisphere, to one of the safest places in this hemisphere. But anyway, get back to the point is religious asylum. We're taking on legitimate cases. So we had a girl, for example, she was Muslim in Nigeria, Muslim community, family, Muslim family, and two of her friends led her to Christ. She became a Christian. She got baptized. She told her dad, said, "Dad, I became a Christian. I'm a follower of Jesus." He said, "You either recount your faith, deny Jesus,
Or
your uncle is going to kill you," which is protocol in many Muslim countries around
Right.
the world, to slit the throats of their children. That's how sick and demented that religion is in so many places. So the girl, afraid for her life, she ran away from home. She fled to southern Nigeria. This was northern Nigeria, where the Muslims and the radical Islam has a lot of control. Fled to the southern part where a lot of Christians are. But she knew it was only a matter of time before her family was going to track her down. And she fled to the United States. And we at Pacific Justice, we stepped in and we prevented her from being sent back to certain death in Nigeria. We offer that same protection to pastors in the United Kingdom, in England, or Germany, or other places where they're living their faith, they're sharing their faith, and they're being threatened with to suffer dire consequences for it. If they can get to the United States, we're here. Our arms are extended to protect them and defend them, and it's a real joy to do that. We also defend Jewish people as well from anti-Semitism in Muslim countries and radical countries across the
one
world.
last question for you. We're getting near the end of the program. In Mexico, they're talking about implementing a full digital ID in order to, in some cases, buy things. And Bill Gates is advocating a digital ID where you can't buy or sell without it. Should Christians be concerned about that with the biblical implications?
Well, the biblical implications are, well, first, it's going to happen. So we're going to have the mark of the beast. It is going to be used to persecute individuals. People who are pre-tribulation are likely to advocate that it's going to be in full implementation, possibly after the rapture. Mid-tribulations are a little more concerned, but we know it's going to happen. I think we as Christians should resist it because we want as much time as we can to continue to share the gospel. Others are, Jesus, come quickly. Let it happen. I believe I've sort of side with the idea of let's keep open the opportunities to live our faith and share our faith, and let's resist it. But I do think it's coming, and I think it makes a lot of logical sense from a secular perspective to see it throughout the world eventually. And when it does, it's going to be turned against those who do not like the baggage that will be coming with it, which is persecution and denial of the Christian faith. Thank you so much, Kurt, for being on the program. Look forward to having you on next time.
Thank you, Brad.
So, folks, there you have it. It's our God-given freedoms we're talking about. Now, let's choose to keep them. I'm Brad Dacus, president and founder of the Pacific Justice Institute. Let's continue the fight for your freedoms.
We would love the opportunity to continue to serve you. Just visit pji.org and click the Legal Insider button to sign up for our email newsletter. At PJI, we help individual employees, employers, business owners, pastors, students, citizens of every stripe through our practical resources, counsel, representation, and defense, all free of charge at pji.org. PJI is an island of stability and assurance in our ever-churning sea of legal and societal chaos. We are here for you.
So, folks, just remember, it's our God-given freedoms we're talking about. Now, let's choose to keep them. I'm Brad Dacus, president of the Pacific Justice Institute. Let's continue the fight for your freedoms.